Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dallas Live. I am your host, Dr. RC. The number to call is 469 307 1642 1642. Today we have a featured guest, Christian Ferretti. And Christian Ferretti is an in demand therapist, a coach, and a teacher specializing in emotional health. Now, his claim to fame is that he has mastered the art of eliminating emotional pain using energy techniques that can cure an addiction, phobia, depression, or anxiety under 5 minutes. Well, Christian, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right, very good. Hey, listen, before we get right to it, I want to ask our guests the usual question I always ask. Those are where were you born? What were you doing in early part of your life? What are you doing now? And what is in the future for you?
I was born in Mexico. It's in the state of Sonora. I
Okay.
came to the United States when I was about 9 years old. Um, in the past, well, I'm barely not that old. I'm 24 years old. Since I was in junior high, I had a lot of health problems, and I went to a doctor, from doctor to doctor, and I got some improvements with some of them, and but most of them were not that effective. Then when I was in about eighth grade, I got really bad skin problems, and that's what really bothered me the most. So I started my own research on natural health, and that's been over 10 years ago. In that journey of researching natural health, I stumbled upon methods to virtually be able to use your mind and use your physical body to manipulate the body's energy system and be able to eliminate negative emotions and dramatically change the way you feel. And the techniques I learned from several different people worked extremely well. I used them on my friends and family, and the results that they provided motivated me to continue through that path and go through that area of work and study. So for about 10 years, I've been studying energy and mental health. It's similar to psychology, but it's more in an energy psychology area, and that's what I've been doing for the most part of my life. I've been working with people one on one, mostly providing therapy one on one, and also teaching people how to apply these same techniques. About a few months ago, I decided to create a DVD program that not only teaches the techniques but also walks the people through the same techniques. That way, I don't have to work one on one with people. That I can uh, do the work once and have it be available to a lot of people at the same time. So that's what's more on my future. And my past it has been working one on one with people and continue researching this type of information.
So, what is your educational background? Are you a psychologist, psychiatrist, doctor, or scientist? What did you study?
No, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, and I'm not a medical doctor, and I don't have any fancy education. I didn't graduate from Harvard or Yale,
Okay.
but I've
You
been
you are pretty much like me then. Okay. All right, go ahead.
yeah, most of my life, like I said, I started researching natural health when I was very, very young, and I've been lucky to meet people who have information that actually works. Because I've seen many natural health information that's really not very effective. So I've been lucky enough to meet people that can actually produce results. So I consider myself to be a researcher and a reporter because I research the information, I learn it, I test it, and then I report the information and my findings to my customers.
Very good. Okay, so you did some research. Now, you said that when you were 15 years old, you had a skin ailment, and you went to doctors and everything else, and finally you were able to cure it yourself, correct?
Yes, I was able to cure myself of the
Now, how
skin.
did when you went to the doctors, what did they prescribe?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
What when you went to the first, you went to the doctors, right? Of course, probably either you or your parents took you to the doctors, correct?
Yes.
What did they prescribe as a medication? What did they do?
Oh, mostly it was antibiotics.
Antibiotics,
Um,
okay.
yeah,
And
for the
that
most part, it was.
whatever problem you had, that did not get cured by all these treatments from the medical doctors.
I'm sorry, the
Well, the
connection.
question is, all the treatment that you had, okay, from the doctors did not cure your problem. You did not get any relief.
I did get a little relief. It was not that it completely did not do anything, but either the improvement was very minimal, or it was only for a short amount of time, and then the symptoms will come back
Okay, so
after.
it was recurring. It'll work for a while. The skin problem will go away, but then again it'll come back. Now, so coming back to that particular skin element, so what is that you did that finally you got yourself cured from this problem?
The main thing I did is, I believe all illness is caused by four things. I think the strongest one, the most important, is mental and emotional stress. It's also caused by nutritional deficiencies, also by electromagnetic chaos, and by toxins accumulated in the body. So basically, I just work with toxins, eliminating toxins from my body, uh, getting nutrition, massive amounts of nutrition into my body, neutralizing electromagnetic chaos. But what really gave me the most results was eliminating emotional and mental stress. So by fixing those four causes, that's what was able to give me complete healing on my overall health.
Okay, very good. So now we are what you said is, well, the problem came and gone. The antibiotics worked temporarily and alleviated the symptoms, but it did not work at all in the long run. So the way you are able to control or actually cure this problem was to control or improve your mental and emotional health, reduce emotional stress and other mental anxiety and whatever else you had. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, here is the problem with this scenario because, for example, there are a lot of people out there suffering from all kinds of diseases. Now, the problem with the doctors that who are going to treat them, they only spend probably no more than 3 to 5 minutes or even less. Okay, because they go through this revolving door, different cubicles in a hospital setting, and the nurse takes a look, and then the nurses and officer takes a look, and then finally at the end of the day the doctor shows up, and the doctor looks at the chart. He says, okay, what's your problem? And I have a lesion here. He looks at the lesion, so okay, he writes something, and then off he goes. So basically he spends only 5 minutes. Now the question of this, any doctor anywhere in this country or any other country for that matter, is actually spending time with the patient and trying to find out whether this lesion is a neurodermatitis or it is caused by mental problem, or is it something that is an infection that it can be. They're not going through that at all. As a matter of fact, they give you the medication like what they gave you, an antibiotic. You take it home. Yeah, it fixes for a few minutes, but your emotional or mental stress, that is not changed. Therefore, once the antibiotic wears off, the whole thing comes back. So I totally understand. I think you got a very good point. Now, the important thing that I wanted to ask you, you are making a claim. That is what is pretty amazing to me. The claim is that if I read through your website and also through a few other things, you are saying something that is very unusual. Now, here is what I'm going to do for audience. Audience, what you need to do, you need to increase the volume. We are going to play a video which is about a minute from Christian's website. Let's go ahead and play this. Increase your volume and then decrease the volume back. Okay, here it comes. Christian, you may not be able to hear it because the phone doesn't pick it up. So just wait for a minute, Christian. Okay?
Okay.
Hello, my name is Christian. I'm the creator of the course on bioenergetic rebalancing techniques. I've helped thousands of people eliminate all kinds of negative emotions, addictions, and emotional pain. I want to welcome you to energetichealth.info, where I'm going to teach you how you can too eliminate your emotional pain, negative emotions, and addictions. I want to invite you to look around the website and look at the information that we have available. I recommend that you enter your email on the box that we have on the website so that you can receive free videos and free information on how you can be emotionally healthy. I invite you to go to the contact section and ask me any question you want, and I'll be happy to answer any question you have. Again, I want to thank you for being here in energetichealth.info, and I hope to hear from you soon.
Okay, and now, ladies and gentlemen, you can reduce the volume back to normal. And now you heard it. It's a very nicely prepared video, Christian. I enjoyed watching it, and you look pretty good. So you should be able to convince anybody with that looks. Christian, coming back to the question, the most important thing that I wanted to ask you is you can cure an addiction, phobia, or depression under 5 minutes. How do you make this claim?
Yes, and that's a claim that would cause just about anyone to be in disbelief. But let me explain how this works. And after I explain the mechanics of how the mind works, then it's probably going to be a little bit clearer. But I mean, we all know we have a brain, right? That's scientifically proven. We know that from school. We know we have a brain, but most of us don't know that we have a mind which is separate from the brain. And some people may disagree, but it's scientifically proven that we have an electromagnetic field surrounding the body. Some people call it the aura. Some people call it by different names, or you can call it the mind. Now, we also, inside of the body, have an electrical energy system. This consists of electrical magnetic energy circulating throughout the body. And the different cultures around the world 3,000 years ago were writing and using this energy system to cure and eliminate different ailments and illnesses. And science has denied that such an electromagnetic system existed inside of the body until about 10 or 15 years ago. New scientific instruments were able to prove that we actually do have that electromagnetic system around the body. So now they accept that we do have it, but they don't include that into medical school or medical training. And what research shows is that whenever we have a negative emotion or whenever we experience an addiction, trauma, or phobia, it affects our energy system. It goes out of balance, sort of as if we had a short circuit in the body's electrical system. So what actually happens is that we store certain information in the body's energy system. We store information in the form of magnetic field. And this has been researched by many, many scientists. And there's a book called The Blueprint for Immortality, which gives the whole book is about the research of magnetic fields in the body. But the bottom line is the magnetic fields actually affect the brain, and the mind affect the brain. And if we look at neuroscience, we see of how our thoughts create neural pathways in the brain, creating habits and thought habits and also action habits. So it is actually these electromagnetic fields that control the brain. They basically can change the brain, creating new neural pathways, and that's how they're connected. That's how the energy system is connected to the brain. Now we have in, negative information that's stored in the body's energy system. And let me give you an example. If a person goes through an accident and has a traumatic event, that person has memory, and conventional psychology would think that the memory causes the negative emotion. So what they do is they try to numb the person's brain. They try to remove the memory, thinking that that's going to eliminate the emotion because they think the memory is causing the emotion.
Okay,
That's actually not
hold
true.
on, Christian, hold on. We are coming to the first break, 15-minute break. We have to take a commercial break and a music break. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Dallas Live. I am your host, Dr. RC. You are also listening to Christian Ferretti. He is a therapist, coach, and a teacher specializing in emotional health. When we come back, we will go back to the trauma and the memory and the brain that he's talking about and figure out what the conventional psychologists are talking about and what Christian wants to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay. We will be right back. And Christian, please stay on the line. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Dallas Live. I am your host, Dr. RC. You are listening to Christian Ferrari. He is a therapist, coach, and a teacher specializing in emotional health. Before the break, he was talking about the separation of mind from the brain. By the way, Christian, this is one subject that has been eluding me for last several decades. That you are saying that the mind is different from brain. Now, if you make that assumption, the mind is different from brain, then also we have to go into the concept of soul, God, and everything else. But that's a different subject matter. But what you said, to recapitulate what you said, the electromagnetic field is there in the human body, and there is an electrical energy system. The science has never denied it, and the new scientific instruments are able to detect this electromagnetic field surrounding the body. And you are saying that the negative emotions affect energy and it makes it out of balance. And the there is a storage of, I know you said something about blueprint for immortality that we need to talk about later, but you also said that the mind and the magnetic field affect the way the brain functions. And it also, I agree with you that new neural pathways are formed, when you are starting to think about new things. Now, one other thing that before we went on the break, you said that the trauma, okay, the trauma is treated by the psychologist or psychiatrist differently. They say that the trauma is in the memory, and in order to numb that memory or numb the brain, they give medications. So tell me, How is your procedure of treating trauma is different from what a regular psychiatrist or psychologist would treat trauma?
The difference is that my theory is that the memory does not cause the negative emotion. It is actually the negative information stored in the energy system that's causing the negative emotion. And I've worked with people who have trauma, and as soon as they think about the negative event, they start having extreme negative emotion. But after I work with them, they are able to remember the whole event without having any emotion attached to the memory. So that's proof that conventional psychology is wrong in that respect because the memory is not causing the emotion. And let me explain. The negative information is stored in the body, and that's causing an imbalance in the body's energy system, which causes the brain to release stress hormones and causing the physical negative emotion in the body. Now, if we eliminate the negative information or the magnetic field causing the negative emotion, then the person could have the memory and have no negative emotion attached to the memory. And that's how these techniques work. That's why they are bioenergetic rebalancing techniques. They rebalance the body's energy system. They clean out the negative information that's stored in the energy system so that there's nothing there to cause the negative emotion.
All right. Okay.
And
Let's get to a challenging scenario for trauma. Okay. Now, now, you seem to be having this incredible amount of information and knowledge about this particular subject field. Let me give you a hypothetical scenario, and you tell me how the memory cannot cause negative emotions. Now, this is a memory. Now, let's talk about a father, okay, or a mother. Doesn't matter. Father and mother raised a child. The child went through the school, went through college, and completed his schooling and got married, and he is say about your age, for example. Okay. Now the suddenly what happens? You get into an accident, and the son dies. He's say 25 years old. Now the father is completely distraught. Naturally, he raised this child from birth, and he is completely distraught. Now, when he thinks about this memory of his son dying or dead, how do you tell this father how to take care of this trauma? How would you treat him?
in this type of case, what happens most of the time is that the father would feel guilty in some sense. They would feel that it is their fault that their son died. And now there's two
Now
different
let's
issues.
make an
That
assumption that the father has done a very good job, and the father knows, the mother knows, because until the son's death, everybody was telling the father, and he himself knew that the son died, and he didn't have any guilt feeling. Suppose he felt that he is fine. I mean, he did the best he could, and he didn't have any guilt feeling, and nobody ever told him he didn't raise his son properly. But the son still died. Now one of the worst thing that anything can happen to anybody is for anyone is when they see their own child die in car accident or in any means in any event. So how do you tell this? How do you treat this father? Now this father, because I'm telling you the story because I knew one father who had a daughter and a son in their 20s and 30s. Okay, and one of them died in a car accident. The other one died in an infection. They went to hospital. They didn't treat her properly. Both were married. Both had kids. But both of them died. Now I met this father. Even I knew him, and I could see he was completely down and out. Okay, and pretty much the death of his children killed him within a few months. Within a few months, he was so distraught that he could not. I mean, he didn't kill himself, by the way. He just died because of the trauma. How do you treat this? And I would, I was good friends with him, and I wanted him to be alive and comfort him and console him, but he was not there anymore. How do you treat this guy? How is your now? Naturally, he didn't go to any psychiatrist or psychologist because they're not going to help him. Maybe he should have come to you. So how would you help this man?
Well, in this case, this therapy is a little different than conventional therapy. We don't deal with the analytical part of the brain, or it's not like talk therapy. We work strictly with the emotion. So in this case, we will try, the first step is always to identify what is the emotion, whether it's anger, whether it's depression, sadness, whatever the type of
In
emotion.
his case, it
Then
was
we,
depression and sadness.
okay, in this case, if it's depression, we know it's depression, so then we rate the emotion. In the scale of 0 to 10, we rate how high or
Let me
how
give you an
intense.
answer. He was around one because he was just leaving. You know, he's just getting up barely on the bed, and he was getting. You know, he was retired, so he didn't have to go to work. So he was barely getting out of his bed, barely walking into the kitchen, barely making a coffee, and his wife in the same scenario because they lost everything in their mind. So they were barely functioning. The wife is still there. You know, she is still able to cope this with better than him. So he's in the scale of 0 to 10. He's one.
Okay, then in that case, it would be severe case. It would be obviously a 10. Then we have the person focus on the emotion that activates the magnetic field. Then we use a technique which consists on tapping on certain parts of the body, which are central command points of the energy system. When you tap on this point, it sends an electro shock throughout the whole energy system, and it destroys whatever energy field is being activated. So that's why it's very important to focus on the emotion while you apply the technique.
Okay, so
And
now I see now where is I'm sorry. The actually I shouldn't say one in case of depression. It's practically 10. He's depressed, completely depressed. Now you are saying that you are going to tap into the energy field and press something. Tell me exactly how what is that? So he's now, I assume that he's in front of you, sitting in your office right now, and you can see this man. He's completely depressed. What is the first thing you are going to do?
the first thing I'm going to do is check for something called psychological reversal. Most people who are depressed or who are addicted to something have a psychological reversal. That means that their subconscious mind is working against their conscious mind, meaning they want to get consciously over the depression, but at a subconscious level, they want to keep wallowing on that pain and those negative feelings. So first we need to fix the psychological reversal. Then we would go to work on the energy system. And there's two ways to do that. We can do the tapping technique, where we tap on different points on the body while the person focuses on the emotion, and that's what works the fastest for most people. But also, there's one where you use your mind to basically move the energy around your body and change your emotion. And my experience working with these type of cases, people don't go to a complete zero on feeling no emotion because it's obviously a loved relative. But they bring down the emotion to a place where it's a manageable intensity, meaning they're able to go to work, they're able to function in a normal way, even though they still feel some amount of negative emotion.
Very good, very good. So what you are saying is you will go through psychological reversal on the first step, and then tap on their body to change their magnetic field to improve their mental status, reduce the depression. Now, well, we have to take a break right now. When we come back, I want to ask you how much success you had with this. In your video, you are saying that you have treated thousands of people. So let's go back and take a look at your claim and see where we go from there as to the credibility of those claims. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Dallas Live. I am your host, Dr. RC. The number to call is 469-307-1642. Christian, please stay on the line, and we will be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Dallas Live. I am your host, Dr. RC. You are listening to Christian Ferretti. He is a therapist, coach, and a teacher specializing in emotional health. The way to reach him is send him an email, contact at energetic.health.info. Energetic health is one word. Contact at energetichealth.info. Christian, now if somebody wants to reach you, what is that they should do? How can they reach you other than this email?
Um, the way is go to my website and go through the contact form, and that's the best way to reach me. At this time, we're working. We just I don't know if you noticed, but we just upgraded to a different server. So all of our systems are being refreshed, and it's not all completely done. Should be by the end of the week. But right now, that's the best way to contact me at email or go to my website, energetichealth.info, and then go through the contact section, and you'll find my information there.
Okay. Now, one thing that is somewhat surprising to me, usually when somebody is going to make a claim like what you are making, usually they are in their 60s or 70s and they have seen a lot of life. Now, it is refreshing, but at the same time, a little scary to see a 24-year-old man coming and telling me that he is going to cure me. Okay. So, how are you going to fight against this age bias because you are so young?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's something that comes up a lot. And the reason is, like I mentioned earlier, I've been very lucky to work with people who have spent their entire lives um, working, researching, and going through years and years of trial and error to develop one technique that provides results. Um, and I've worked with many of those people who have spent their entire lives developing these techniques. And I've been lucky to go to them and have them teach me the end result in a short amount of time. I did not have to go through those 20 years of research or trial and error. And I mean, what it took them to find out 20 years, they were teaching it to me in about a year. So that's how, in a very short amount of time, I was able to learn all this information. And none of the information is actually mine. I didn't discover it. I didn't invent any of it. It's information that I've learned from different people. I've used it on myself, my family, and on many of my clients. And now I'm teaching it to as many people as I can. And that's how being so young, I've been able to have this knowledge.
Oh, good. Okay. Now, one thing that I wanted to ask you, the psychologists and psychiatrists and other behavioral health practitioners, what would they tell you when you tell them about this? Because I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist, so I'm unable to evaluate what you are trying to do. But I'm sure you must have interacted in your encounters in parties and other places, psychologists and psychiatrists, and when you tell them, what is their reaction? Or you
So
don't tell them?
the most common response is they tell me it's impossible, that it cannot be done. It, when I tell them I can cure a phobia in a matter of minutes, they completely disagree. They think it's impossible. And some of them are not very open-minded, and they don't go further into investigating the technique. But many of them actually do, and actually train them in the techniques, and they actually use it in their practice. But yes, at first, almost all of them are skeptical of the techniques and the effectiveness that they provide. But it's very interesting because one of the techniques was actually invented or developed by a clinical psychologist named Roger Callahan, who recently passed away. But he's the one who developed the technique called thought field therapy, and he has a similar theory to the one I just described on uh, thought field, and he tells the story of how he noticed that psychology was probably the most ineffective and non-efficient way to treat mental illness in America. And he actually went outside of the conventional route and investigated alternative methods. And through years of research, he developed the thought field therapy, which is the tapping technique.
All right, now see, the depression and anxiety, or obsessive compulsive disorders, or ADHD, these are somewhat of a medium to minor scale problem. Now, can your technique treat some of the hardcore mental disorders like schizophrenia or paranoia, paranoid schizophrenia, bipolar disorders?
I have very little experience working with psychological disorders. I'm more in the area of emotional disorders. But I've had little experience with that, but I've never been able to cure anyone of that. But I've been able to have people who I've worked with, and they report to me that they've had some improvements in those areas, but they have not cured any of them either. Um,
Okay, so you
Maybe
are saying that the harder ones, the more brain chemistry is so significantly altered, like schizophrenia. Your technique may not be of much use there, but unfortunately, those guys have to go back to the doctors and take their chances. Now, here is another question I wanted to ask you. Um, I want to tell you something from my experience. There are two. In Germany, they came up with this medical treatment system called homeopathy. And in India, many years ago, or for the last 10,000 years, they have come up with an Indian medicine called Ayurvedic system. Now, and if you ask the Germans who are strong proponents of homeopathy, they will tell you, they will swear that homeopathy is the best system of medicine. And if you go to India and ask those Indian folks, about their native medication system called medical therapy called Ayurveda, they swear by it, saying that this is the best. Now, only my concern is, as long as homeopathy and Ayurvedic system were existing, the human life was less than 40 years. Only when allopathic medicine came into being as a scientific method of treating diseases, the human lifespan extended up to 70, 80, 90 years. Okay. Now, if the homeopathy and Ayurvedic medicines were any good, okay, they would have taken over the world by storm. Okay. Now, if your system is any good, all those psychologists and psychiatrists and medical therapists, they will be out of business. Your system and the system that you have come up with, studying everything else, this is the first time I heard. This is the first time my audience heard about it, most likely. Now I'm not saying that you don't have anything yet. Now, how are you going to prove this? That you are working against a very strong lobby now of psychologists and psychiatrists. Now, for example, in your website and also on your uh, proposal here, you are saying that you can cure addiction, phobia, or depression under 5 minutes. Now, this is your claim. Now, you know what this claim means. This claim means, in at least in the United States, I'm not trying to scare you, by the way, because I have gone through this. Now, when you are making a claim. Now, who is authorized to make such claims? Are you authorized to make this claim?
in the United States, that's brilliantly said. But in the United States, I am protected by the First Amendment, and I have the right to express my opinion. Now, if I were selling a product, maybe a pill, I probably would go to jail for practicing medicine without a license. And which said is something that happens all the time in America.
Correct.
We have people who are doing good things, doing things without using drugs and surgery, and it's interesting. The law in the United States says clearly only a drug can cure, prevent, or treat any disease. That's the way that the pharmaceutical industry uses the government to create a monopoly to protect the money of the pharmaceutical industry.
Correct.
It's completely, it doesn't, I mean, it's mind-boggling how they make these statements without any scientific backup or evidence saying that only a drug can cure or treat any disease. Now, I'm glad you mentioned that because there's something going on right now. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Kevin Trudeau, but he wrote a book called The Weight Loss Cure. And he wrote that book under the First Amendment right to express his opinion. Now, whether his opinion is right or not is completely irrelevant. Under the First Amendment constitutional right, we're protected. We're supposed to be protected. But then he got sued by the government, $37 million, for expressing his opinion. And that's something that's happening here in America.
Oh, what happened to that case?
I'm sorry?
What happened to that case? What is the verdict on the case?
Oh, they found him. I'm not sure, but they fined him $37 million for writing a book. I mean, that's just outrageous. Just the fact that they fined him $37 million for writing a book and expressing his opinion.
Well, you see, here is the
outrageous.
problem with that, though. If he's just expressing his opinion, okay, that's one thing. I don't think they sued him for expressing his opinion. What he did was further, he went to the next step. He most likely has promoted whatever the idea that he was doing and making money out of it. That's where the problem comes. Now, was he wrote the book and then just sat back and did nothing? Say, for example, in your case, let me ask you, in your case, you see, you are making a claim that now you do have the First Amendment right, like what you're talking about in the United States, that you can write whatever you want. But there is one little problem to this. Now, you know that those religious fanatics and all those imams and the clergymen who wrote things that are incendiary, where they tell that according to Allah or according to whoever else, you go and kill the infidels. Okay. Now, if a imam from a church or from a mosque tells his congregation that yes, according to this Quran, you can go out there and kill the infidels. Now, who are the infidels? Infidels are those who don't believe in Islam. That includes Christians, Hindus, Jews, everybody else. Now, if he writes that, and somebody else goes out there and kills a bunch of Christians, Hindus, or Jews, naturally, who is responsible? The guy at the mosque, the imam, he is responsible because he caused this carnage. So even though he has the First Amendment right to tell anybody anything he wants, if there is a reaction to his thing, then he is still culpable. He cannot get away with it. Now, in terms of the guy that you just talked about, where he says that he wrote something, I don't know what he wrote, but let's come back to your scenario. You are writing that you are going to cure addiction, phobia, and depression under 5 minutes. Now, you didn't stop right there. Okay, if you write this and then just sit back and relax, then that's one thing. Now, you went to the next step. You're saying that you are curing it actually. Now, do you think are you in a little bit of a hot water here?
I probably am.
Okay.
I know what you're saying.
Yes, you are. Now basically, if hopefully nobody is going to watch this show. But let me ask you this: so that then the government officials, if they watch it, then they may come after you and come after me for putting you on. But I'm not worried about it because I don't care. I'm just going to do my job, and you are going to do your job. Now, see, if somebody claims in the United States, claims and then goes to the next step of practicing it, if he claims that I'm going to cure addiction, phobia, or depression under 5 minutes, now if he claims that and then doesn't do anything, then no problem. You just write all this stuff and then sit back and relax, no problem. Now you go to the next step. You actually have a bunch of guys come to your office, or you go to their office and start treating them by your technique. Now, not only that, on top of it, you have done one more thing, which is you put a website up there and you are selling a DVD. Now, basically, you didn't stop. Your First Amendment right ends when you are going to put your ideas into practice, and the government is going to come back and tell, hey, wait a minute. By the way, wait a minute. We are now end of third quarter. Let's come back and talk about it, because I think we need to figure it out how you can go about doing your business without the Fed or the federal guys are harassing us, both you and me, okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Dallas Live. I am your host, Dr. RC. The number to call is 469 307 1642 1642. We will be right back, and Christian, please stay on the line. Chandran speaking.
This call is for customer service. From
Melissa.
To accept.
Yeah, Christian, are you there?
Here.
Okay, just stay on the line, please. I think I got disconnected from some other call coming through. Somebody wants to ask a question, but then they disconnected it. So just stay on the line.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Dallas Live. I am your host, Dr. RC. The number to call is 469 307 1642. We are still with Christian Ferretti. He is a therapist, coach, and a teacher specializing in emotional health. Christian, you know that almost 50 minutes have passed since we started talking, so this topic must be an interesting topic, at least for me. All right. Christian, let's get back to our scenario. So yeah, there is a First Amendment right that you can express whatever you want, but how are you going to go to the next step of protecting yourself from somebody coming after you, especially from the government?
Yes, and you touched a very interesting point that I've been thinking about the past few months of changing. I mean, the law states the law exists doesn't mean they are correct all the time, but I may have to change my wording from cure to maybe eliminate or something like that, just to not have the government come after me.
All right, now here is an idea for you. I remember I've been in the medical field for many years, and I was in the nutritional supplement field. when there is a drug that is approved under a new drug application and the FDA approves it, and what they say is you can mitigate, cure, or diagnose a disease. Okay, but when it comes to the nutritional dietary ingredients, nutritional supplements, the government requires the nutritional companies to say that it will improve joint health, it will improve eye health, it will improve heart health. That's all they can say. And also they have to put a little disclaimer at the bottom saying that the FDA has not approved this product to cure, mitigate, or diagnose any disease, and they put it in a little black box. So, so in your case, I think if you are going to cure something in 5 minutes, okay, then that will be a problem, because the government say, wait a minute, where is the proof? I mean, and another problem that one might face is you don't have a degree, you don't have an approved, board certified psychologist or psychiatrist or medical therapist or anything. So what they will say is that you are practicing without license. That's what they're going to tell you. You're practicing medicine without license, or you're practicing psychology without license, because that's how they eventually get to the people. So just based upon what I have seen so far, I think you have a great product. Most likely that it is doing what you are telling it is doing. But in order to protect yourself, you may have to change the wordings from, say, for example, cure. Don't use the word cure, diagnose, or mitigate. You can simply say that you will improve somebody's health suffering from all this, improve their health, mental health, in 5 minutes tops. Okay, and then you can add some other words. But you may also have to add at the bottom in your website, the FDA has not, approved any of the statements made here.
Yes, that's
And
correct.
by the way, there's nothing wrong with that, because a lot of people will believe in what you are doing. Okay, once they find out what you're doing. Now, if you look back at a company like Bosch and Lamb, Bosch and Lamb is a company that makes preservation. Preservation is a great product. They have done numerous studies. It is actually useful for the treatment of macular degeneration, especially in older folks. And it has shown that it improves or prevents progression of macular degeneration in a lot of people. Now, what they did was they had a bunch of vitamins that were put together, and they had got a patent on it. And they have done a study with the National Institutes of Health, and they did all kinds of different studies, and they have clearly proven that it reduces the rate of progression of macular degeneration. Now, in that, the Bosch and Lamb is a very highly scientifically based company, and they have a lot of FDA approval for a lot of their products. But this particular product, preservation, is a nutritional supplement. So what the FDA has forced them to do is to put on their bottles that the FDA has not evaluated any type of claims that were made in this product. Okay, and they have put it in a black box. If you go to Walmart, Walgreens, or Rite Aid, CVS pharmacy, if you go to the vitamin section, you can pick up this product, and it will say it's for eye health. It doesn't say that it is going to treat macular degeneration, because they can't say it is going to treat it or mitigate it or reduce the rate of progression. So once they put those two, they are clear. Now what they have done in their website, like what you have done in their website, they have given all the data that is done by the National Institutes of Health. So in your case, when you put this thing, that you remove the word cure, diagnose, or mitigate, instead improve health of mental health of human beings for addiction, phobia, or depression, and also put a little disclaimer at the bottom in tiny words. FDA has not evaluated any of this. I think you are pretty much clear. You can do whatever you want after that.
Yeah, thanks for the advice. I will do that.
Yes.
Check myself.
Yeah, well, you have to protect yourself, because I haven't gone and I wish I had a lot more time to go into the details of how this works. I am a skeptic, whenever something new comes, but I'm trying to be open-minded to see whether you can help. Now, there are other scenarios like this. It's been done. I know there is an electromagnetic field, and all the other different studies were done. The problem, as you know very well, when something is really that good, okay, now you see, it's like believe in God. Somebody believes in Jesus, somebody believes in Krishna, and somebody believes in Allah. Now, who do you want to believe? Okay, now, if everybody believes in your system, then you don't have to show anything. You just believe. It's just dogma. But when it comes to science, when it comes to treating people's life and mental disorders, I would think that you have to prove it. Now, only way you can prove it is you have to deal with the psychologists and psychiatrists. They have to accept yours because they are your biggest problem. Now, if something is that great, this is my problem. If something is that great, okay, then I would think that that will take over the world. Okay, let's for example, what is something so great that the Americans went to moon and their scientific technology improvement was extremely good, and you can see it. That took over the world. Their scientific prowess, like that. If your stuff is that good, if you are going to cure people's problem, I'm going to use the term cure. It doesn't matter to me at this time. If you're going to cure addiction, phobia, and depression under 5 minutes, and you can prove it, you got it. You will be the next Bill Gates. Now, I will have to carry your bag of money to the bank. I will be there. Don't worry. Okay. So that's exactly what the situation is now. How are you going to prove it to the world that this is the way to go? Maybe you should come back after the holidays and we should talk more about it and tell us now. Other than that, what else are you doing nowadays? Watching any games, football, anything?
Or one, sorry, I didn't get the last
I
part.
mean, are you watching? Are you a fan of any football teams, or how often do you go to Mexico?
Well, actually, I stay most of the time in Mexico. I came in for the holidays. Now I'm here in Arizona.
Okay.
Yes, I'm staying with my family,
Uh,
so I'm not sure if I'll stay here all the way through January
okay.
because we have Thanksgiving this week. We have Christmas and New Year's, and then January 5th is my birthday.
Oh, good.
So I might stay
Happy
all the way
birthday, man!
through.
You are going to be 25. That's over the top.
Thank you.
I listen, Christian. It's been a great pleasure talking to you, and I wish you all the best. And I hope that you will come up with some more ideas and more concrete examples. I see that you have about 4 or 5 people in your website saying that they found great relief in the technique that you used on them to relieve their problems. Um, and also, if you have done this with so many people, you may have to write a paper, or you may have to include all that information in your website so that people can see it. The proof is really when you see that you have a lot of people cured by this method. Um, I have some knowledge of this, but not much. So I would like you to have you come back and talk to us in the after after the holidays, and we will go much more into the details. And if we can be of any help, we will do it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Dallas Live and also to Christian Ferretti. His website is energetichealth.info, where it has all the information. You tell us about your DVD, Christian, to the audience.
The DVD is basically me teaching the technique, teaching, talking a little bit more, a lot more of what we spoke here about energetic fields, magnetic fields, how that interferes with the brain, how it works together with the brain and the mind. Um, I also, the first thing I do is I build a foundation. I build a foundation so that the person can grasp the information better. I teach them what's the difference between conventional psychology and energy psychology, how to work your mind to become more teachable and be able to get more results, and how to become what is the ultimate goal, being unconsciously competent on feeling good all the time and being at a place of happiness all the time and have it be automatic. At first, it's going to be something you're going to work on, but the goal of the course is to be it become something automatic that you don't even have to think about it. Be at that point. Then I go into talking about the mechanics of how this works. Then I teach the techniques, and I walk people through different scenarios. A scenario of being treating depression, treating anxiety, phobias, or addictions, and it's almost as if I was right there with the person giving them the therapy. I walk them right through it as if I was right there. You just have to follow the steps, and they'll be able to see the results in a matter of minutes. Each session on the course takes between 5 and 10 minutes. So that's about how long it would take to get results from whatever they want to work on.
Excellent. Very good. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Christian. We are actually coming to the end of this program. Christian, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Welcome, welcome. And we will be right back. Christian, please stay on the line.